Good afternoon, welcome to the Midday Mull for Friday the 9th of April. Reading Leviticus chapter 13, we have a long list of skin diseases and the issues around them and how the priest must examine, and if it's spreading then he must re-examine, and if it's still spreading the person is unclean. If the skin disease isn't spreading, well then they must wash themselves and they can get on with their life. It ends up saying that anybody that has a defiling skin disease, which in the old translations would have been leprosy, Leviticus 13:45, anyone who has such a defiling disease must wear torn clothes, let their hair be unkempt, cover the lower part of their face, and cry out, "Unclean, unclean." As long as they have the disease, they remain unclean. They must live outside. They must live alone. They must live outside the camp. From today's perspective, that seems a little harsh. If somebody's sick, cast them out. But in terms of communicable diseases, it is exactly the right thing. If somebody has a disease which can be passed on, unless this happens, the whole community gets infected. And then you have, instead of one sick person, you have hundreds of sick people. And we've learnt this with COVID. Keep the lower part of your face covered and keep your distance from other people. And by doing that, we're able to manage the spread of a disease. And the two things, the one is that God was concerned about health, and that we are healthy, and we look after ourselves, and we treat disease with the proper respect. And therefore we need to remember that. And as Christians, when we're asked to be socially distant and to not spread diseases, we do what we can not to spread diseases, to protect everybody else. The other thought that came to my mind is how many other things they are spreading and what role we play. Misinformation and lies and bad teaching and all sorts of things which would go from person to person to person. And maybe we need to be a little careful as well in what we share with other people. And there's some things which we hear which we need to take into isolation and just wrap it up, not pass it on. And so it's a challenge to us to think twice when we retweet, when we pass on Facebook posts and things like that, when we share rumors and stories. And as Christians, very often, or hopefully not too often, when people at prayer meetings have a prayer need that they want other people to pray for, sometimes some things which, like skin diseases, need to be taken outside and kept wrapped up and not passed on. So be challenged on the two levels. The one of just looking after other people in terms of health, helping to protect other vulnerable people from getting sick. And therefore, as Christians, we comply with COVID regulations. Inconvenient as they are, they're necessary. But then also how we be careful about other things we pass on, because that can be more destructive than a skin disease. So protect yourself, protect others, and be blessed. And then just a little note, I'm finally going to be able to get away for a couple of days. So from Saturday will be the last mull for the next 2 weeks. I'll be going off to the Northern Cape, where there is very little connectivity, so I'll be out of communication and won't be able to continue with the mull for the next 2 weeks. But after that, we will pick it up again. So from the end of April, 26th, I think, we'll probably get going again. In the meanwhile, know that God is with you always, and you are blessed.